Hello and welcome to our welcome to our webinar, Amazing Audio. I'm Heather Booth, the audio editor for Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links for today's slide presentation and the title list were included in the reminder email that you received from Zoom just about an hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and then click on the links that are located there. You can also download the slides and title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you might have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or if you need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the Captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select Show or Hide Captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Caption Settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Michele Cobb, the Audio Sales Director at LA Theater Works, Jolene Bartow, Marketing Director at Dreamscape Media, Abigail Miles, Sales and Marketing Associate at CamCat Books, and Elham Ali, Sales and Marketing Associate, and Cassie Smythe, Audiobook Manager, both at ECW Press. First, we'll hear from Michele Cobb. Michele is the Audio Sales Director at LA Theater Works, as well as being the Executive Director of the Audio Publishers Association. Thanks for joining us, Michele.
Thanks for having me. All right, I'm going to kick us off here today with some audio industry statistics. We'll look at data from the APA Consumer Survey that we do yearly with Edison Research and the APA Sales Survey that we do with Harris Interactive. Those sales are from 2022. All right, let's take a look at the sales to start with. What you'll see here is the great news that continues to come to audio, and I actually credit librarians a lot for this great news, and that is we continue to see double-digit growth year over year. Libraries, we know, are a place of discovery. You help people decide which title to select, you make recommendations, you have programming. It's all fantastic, and we thank you for that. In fact, we've seen as a group 11 years of double-digit growth, and fingers crossed when we do the 2023 survey that will be released in June, we'll see a 12th year. All right, let's take a look at some of the statistics from consumers. In 2023, we were super excited to see that more than half of adults in the US said that they had ever listened to an audiobook. That's a huge leap from 2022. And right now, the 2024 survey is being streeted, so we will be learning more about that in June as well. Over half of those that listen are from the 18 to 44 age range. So we've seen over the past 20 years that the age of the listener has come down a bit, and audiobook listeners tend to be more diverse than the US population. Let's talk about some more information in the sales categories. First of all, people are listening more, but slightly less than during the pandemic. So we got to 6.7 average books per year during 2022. We're down to pre-pandemic levels, 6.3, but that's not bad news. It's just down to where we were. The really great news is that more kids are listening. During the pandemic, we saw that parents wanted to get their children away from screens. And you, as a listener, might know there's no better way than to shut your eyes, relax, and listen to an audiobook. So we saw over 20% increase over 3 years in the number of parents who say that their kids listen to audiobooks. All right, let's dive a little deeper. In the genre categories, fiction in the US outstrips nonfiction, and that's really in North America. We've always been a place that loves blood, guts, and gore, so mystery suspense thriller has long been the top genre. However, we saw science fiction and fantasy surpass it in 2022. And part of the reason is those are very long titles. They're great for credits, and they can be more expensive than other titles. Three genres that really took a leap during the pandemic. People wanted to laugh, humor. They wanted to do personal development and self help, more nonfiction. And of course, no one was going out and using Tinder, so romance has been growing. Two of the categories that we've seen the biggest leaps in are children's. It's all those parents getting their kids away from screens, and non English language. In fact, I'm coming to you from Madrid, where I was presenting these statistics today to a Spanish language audience. And we know that the majority of the non English language titles that are produced out of North America are, in fact, in Spanish. It's only about 4% of the total market, but that's a big increase over the previous year. All right, let's see what people are listening on. I'm sure, no shock, the the smartphone is king. The rise of audiobooks parallels the rise of the smartphone. So that's what people listen to audiobooks on the most when they're asked to pick one device. The thing that we see audio publishers never understanding is how much people like to listen to audiobooks and do nothing else. I remember 20 years ago, practically, standing behind the glass while a facilitator talked to some listening consumers, and they all said, we like to relax to read audiobooks. We don't do anything else. And it's taken years of surveys for us to accept that. We always thought people were driving, which they are, just not as much as while they're doing nothing else. We know that they multitask in the house and outside, and we're just happy that they're listening more and more. All right, up next, I wanted to bring a little good news from libraries, and Overdrive was kind enough to provide some of their statistics. Just as we've seen 5 years of double-digit growth in revenue, we've also seen double-digit growth in the number of circulations. So that's just a little bit of a snapshot of what's happening in the industry itself. Let's move on to LA TheaterWorks. LA TheaterWorks is a nonprofit organization. We actually record plays, many in front of a live audience, and since the pandemic, more in the studio. Because we're a nonprofit, we're trying to create a collection of classic and contemporary plays that is going to live forever in your libraries, in universities, and in people's homes. And part of our mission as a nonprofit is to actually give some of these titles away. So if you are at a public school, I'm going to ask you to take a look at the next slide. And on it, we have latw.org/education. If you sign up there, you can enroll to receive some of our titles for free via MP3 download. So high schools, middle schools, we encourage you to contact us. In fact, you'll get the email from me. Recently, the school from down the street from me actually sent me a form, and I got to send them their materials with a nice little note from, hey, someone else from Providence. All right, let's take a look at some of the titles that we are producing. We do these full cast recordings. It's sound effects, it's music. And when it's live in front of an audience, you actually get to hear the audience react, which is always fun. So here's the title that came out recently. And this is kind of a reimagining of the strange tale of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So David Rambo, who is a playwright and a television writer, has created this piece which has Henry Jekyll recording the harrowing story of his lifelong, attempt to be a good physician and philanthropist and keep the monster down. Seamus Dever and Edita Brichter are two of the stars of this, and it includes one of the things that LA TheaterWorks does a lot of, which is an extra. In this case, the playwright is talking to our horror expert, Leslie S. Klinger. All right. Maybe you've heard about the Audies. Those are put on by the Audio Publishers Association. And those are going to be Monday night. So I'm asking Taylor to put a link to that in the chat. You can actually see those live streamed on the APA YouTube channel. And I'm very pleased to say that LA TheaterWorks has 2 finalist titles. The first being Exodus, The Shanghai Jews by Kate McCall. This was a finalist in the original work. So it's a piece that was created completely for LA TheaterWorks. It's all about people trying to escape Nazi Germany in the 1930s. They were having trouble finding a place to go. And it turns out China was willing to take some people in. This full cast includes Joanne Whalley and Ari Gross. You can see I've included all the digital ISBNs, and there's a list from Booklist with all of those. You can get any of our titles direct from LA TheaterWorks or through your favorite library vendor. We are getting rid of CDs, so you'll notice I haven't put any CDs here, but if you go to latw.org, there are still some CDs you can purchase. All right, let's look at the next Audie's finalist. Once Upon a Time in Nazi-Occupied Tunisia. This is a finalist in the Drama Award. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that one of these comes through. This is a very dark comedy about 2 couples that are friends, and they live, of course, in Tunisia. One couple is Jewish and the other is Muslim. And when they are taken over by the Germans, they start to find out maybe their friendship isn't as strong as they thought. And they're trying to struggle with their new feelings as well as save themselves from a Nazi commandant named Grandma. The cast here includes Layla Ayed and Patrick Husinger. All right, next up, one of my favorite classics, The Great Gatsby. This is an adaptation that was put together by Annalise Erickson, who actually directs many of our titles, and it has such a stellar cast. Rufus Sewell, who you see there, Sarah Drew, who you might know from things such as Grey's Anatomy, and Nate Cordray. It's really a fantastic listen. I encourage you to check it out. All right, I'm going to talk about our partnership with the Sloan Foundation next. This title, Nan and the Lower Body, is an example of a title that we have in our partnership with Sloan. They actually work with us to put together plays that are bringing science into the entertainment industry. Quite a cast on this one with Jennifer Goodwin, and Richard Schiff, and it's all about a prestigious research fellow who is working with a doctor who invented the pap smear. He thinks that her sort of loyalties are split because of her husband, but she's got some things up her sleeve. After the play, there is an interview with the playwright, Jessica Dickey. All right, next up is an oldie but a goodie. Some titles we had not actually put into digital ever, but Snakebit is an example of that. It's all about a showbiz couple who leaves behind their ailing daughter in New York City to go to an audition, and it involves the AIDS crisis. It stars D.W. Moffat and Talia Balsam. And next up, another play from the Sloan collection. This is our Relativity collection. This one's coming out in just a few weeks, and the staff tells me it's incredibly complex to put together, quite a soundscape. And this is all about the innovation, the person who innovated IVF, Dr. Richard Myers, and he's getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. His family comes together, and of course, when you get family in there, you get a lot of emotional things happening. Again, it's got a full cast, including Kelly McCreary and Monica McSwain. Next up, we have Innocent When You Dream. This is all about a man who has had a devastating stroke, and his family are fighting with the hospital, trying to decide whether or not to take him off life support. He's semi-comatose, but he's kind of remembering a woman that he met and fell in love with in an internment camp. So again, a lot of emotional stuff happening there. All right, just a few left. We have a World War I play. This is a 1928 very dramatic play about an officer's dugout of the British infantry over 3 days. And it really gives a glimpse into their life before Operation Michael. New cast, I just found out: Jack Cutmore Scott, Adam Godley, Ian Ogilvy, Darren Richardson, Matthew Wolfe, and Simon Templeman. All right, and then we have 3 plays coming out in the fall. I don't have cast lists for that. But first up is Can You Hear Me? This is all about the true story of how the radio was invented. And since our plays are available on radio and broadcast on the radio, seems like a perfect topic for us to tackle. And it's again being written by Annalise Erickson. And for the children's librarians among you, we are doing an adaptation of Secret Garden with Jeannie Cicada, and that is coming out in October. And finally, a Sloan play. This is The Golden Shield, which is all about what it means to be lost in translation, and it deals with the actual Chinese Golden Shield. Thanks so much for listening. This is my email. I encourage you to reach out if there are titles you think we should record. I want to know. If you want to buy direct, you can go to our website or reach out to me. Or just know, if you go to Overdrive, Hoopla, Biblioteca, our titles are everywhere for the listening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Michele. We will now hear from Jolene Bartow. Jolene is the marketing director at Dreamscape Media, where she has worked with the amazing team there to publish thousands of audiobook titles. Thanks so much for being here, Jolene.
Thanks so much. And thanks everybody for being here. Again, my name is Jolene. I'm on the Dreamscape team. We'll be talking about some upcoming audiobooks with Dreamscape. And just as a note, these are spring and summer releases. I've mostly put them in chronological order, but I will note the different dates that they're coming out because there's a couple that are mixed in there. So let's go ahead and get started. Just real quick about Dreamscape. We are an independent publisher. As Heather just noted, we are a publisher of thousands of audiobooks. We have hundreds of best-selling audiobooks, and we do all kinds of genres, everything from self-help to mysteries, romance, children's, YA, bio, memoir. So we run the gamut. We've won lots of different awards, which we're super honored to have. And I'll be just touching on a couple different audiobooks, but I definitely encourage you to go to our website, dreamscapepublishing.com. You can see our full catalog. We also have a blog up that we update regularly based on topics. We just did an LGBTQI romance post. We have a Women's History Month post coming up, so that might be helpful as you're making recommendations based on certain themes or different events happening throughout the year. And then next up, let's just go ahead and dive in. These are our new and upcoming audiobooks. So first up is Tiffany Haddish's I Curse You With Joy. I don't know if you had a chance to read her first book, listen to The Last Black Unicorn, but it was a huge success, bestseller. It was nominated for a Grammy. She's a fantastic narrator and brings a lot of heart to her narration. This is the newest one. I Curse You With Joy celebrates the lessons that she's learned in the past couple of years. She also reckons with the legacy of her childhood trauma, the challenges of being a Black woman in the entertainment industry, and her bittersweet reunion with her estranged father after they were apart for nearly 20 years. It's really funny. Like I said, it's very heartfelt with her narration in it as well. This will come out May 7th. And then we have the digital and the physical available for this. Next up is The Mystery Writer by Solari Gentile. This will come out really soon, March 19th. So just barely spring, although I think maybe there's still a winter release here, but this book is the second book that this author has put out. The first one, The Woman in the Library, did fantastic in libraries, maybe because library is in the title. It's very bookish, but it's a fantastic book. And I think fans of that book will love The Mystery Writer. In The Mystery Writer, we follow Theo Benton. She decides to move to the United States to finish her novel, but while she's there, her mentor and her lover are brutally murdered. So she has to solve this mystery. When her brother, Gus, is accused of being the main suspect of the murder, she disappears, but leaves kind of this narrative, this story behind that Gus can follow to be able to find the truth, essentially. So it has very interesting literary pieces in it combined with this murder mystery, which was also elements in The Woman in the Library. So I think it will translate really well in terms of people who enjoyed the first book, really enjoying the new book. So yes, again, this is March 19th. We Loved It All. This is Lydia Millett's new book. It's narrated by Exie Sands. fantastic narrator. This will come out April 2nd. This is really exciting because this is Lydia Millet's first nonfiction book, but she also weaves in creative nonfiction elements of her life, so memoir and bio pieces within this kind of nature and science writing. I did not know this, but Lydia Millet served a quarter century of experience as an advocate for endangered species at the Center for Biological Diversity. And so within it, she takes that experience and makes intimate portraits of what she calls the others, which are extraordinary animals which we share the world with, and then even some that we don't share the world with, it they are now extinct. So very fascinating, uses those stories to weave in with her own personal life, her world traveling parents, fascinating partners and friends, colorful relatives, including diplomats and nut farmers. So a very interesting combination of bio and then science writing. And it's really a beautiful new book from Lydia Millet, who's just a fantastic writer. Next up is Falling for Gage by Mia Sheridan. It's going to be narrated by Mauve York and Benjamin Sands. It'll come out April 23rd. I don't know if you've heard of Mia Sheridan before, but she has just really taken off in the book talk and bookstagram space, which is becoming more and more of the kind of the word of mouth place for people to get book recommendations. She's a New York Times bestseller, USA Today bestselling author. This is in the same universe as her really popular book, Archer's Voice, the Pelion Lake series. So I think fans of that book, which was tremendously popular, will like this one. Has a small town friends to lovers romance piece in it as well. In it, we meet Gage Buchanan, who has kind of coming to a point in his life where he's trying to figure out why he is not with somebody. But he meets a woman, Rory, who initially meets her as a cocktail waitress and then later finds her kind of fronting as a art appraisal person in the small town. But she's there fronting as that so that she can find her father in the small town. So it's kind of this cute rom-com situation, but also has a lot of heart as they both are kind of going through these emotional journeys in their life. So this will come out April 23rd again. Next up, The Library of Broken Hearts by Lucy Gilmore. I'm excited about this. It's going to have a full cast. I don't have the full cast listing yet. We're still kind of putting the finishing touches and buttoning it up, but it'll be great to have some different voices on it. Lucy Gilmore wrote The Lonely Hearts Book Club, which also did insanely well in the library space. It was a Hoopla book club pick, so there's resources there if you want to use that for a book club. I think this would be also a great book for a book club as well. The Library of Borrowed Hearts tells the story of librarian Chloe Sampson, who's been struggling. She's trying to take care of her 3 younger siblings, to find herself and to just make ends meet. But she finds this rare 1960s book at a thrift local flea market, and deciding whether she wants to keep it or not, she talks to her kind of like curmudgeon-y old neighbor who wants to buy the book from her for a tremendous amount of money. But as she starts looking in the book, she sees these notes, these kind of like love stories in the margins, and she finds out that one of the people that are writing these notes is her neighbor. So it's just really this great story, heartfelt story about these two people coming together across different time periods as well. So very excited. I think this will do well with the bookish crowd, if you will. And that'll come out April 30th. Next up, The Language of Letting Go by Melanie Betty. This is narrated by TBD, but I actually got confirmed today from our production team that Liz Cole will narrate both of these. So you'll have fantastic narration both on the more language of letting go and the language of letting go. Melody Betty is known as kind of like an authority figure who speaks on codependency and helping people get through that. Both of these titles, More Language of Letting Go actually comes out in March. The Language of Letting Go comes out in May. Both deal with kind of working through that mental health, people who struggle with codependency. And these are often meditations. So there is something that you can do on a daily basis. More Language of Letting Go is a full year's worth. And then The Language of Letting Go is more of a daily meditations that can be used not throughout the year, but just whenever people want to pick it up. But definitely well-known authority figure on this and has a lot of great advice for people who might be struggling with this issue. Then next up, Jan Fosse. I don't know if you've heard, but he won the Nobel Prize for Literature last year. So we're thrilled to be able to pick up 5 of his audiobooks. Some of these have never been in audio, so we're really excited to bring them and make them available in the format. Not only did he win the Nobel Prize for Literature, but he also has the International Ibsen Prize and the European Prize for Literature. So well-decorated, prolific writer. We also got a fantastic narrator. This is, make sure I say his name right, Kara Conradi is an actor. You might know him from the Netflix show The Norseman, but he is doing all 5 of these. So we're really excited to have him on the Jan Fosse team, if you will. They'll come out from March until May. So there should be a 4-month span here where you'll be getting a couple of them every so often. And then next up, sci-fi, fantasy, and lit RPG. So last May, we launched our new sci-fi, fantasy, and lit RPG division called Dreamscape Lore. Michele talked a little bit about how that's kind of become, all these genres are kind of growing tremendously in the audio space because they are longer. People find them useful for that credit or for that borrow that they're getting at the library. And just there's a bunch of sites like Royal Road, the rise of just self-published fiction has really brought this popularity of sci-fi, fantasy, and lit RPG. So we're dedicated at Dreamscape Lore to bring some of these fantastic new titles into audio. Here's just a smattering of them, but we're going to do 100 different titles this year. We've already seen some great success in terms of awards. We did the Water Outlaws, recently got an Earphones Award. Dual Memory has a Audie Finalist Award as well. So we're really excited to bring these into audio for the first time in many cases where they have previously just been in like an online space. So I would encourage you to, there's a link at the end of this. I have a bunch of clips for these if you want to check them out and see what like a lit RPG audiobook sounds like. Several of them are available with excerpts if you go to that link. And then next up, I have 2 titles. We're really excited. We work with Zando Publishing. They publish these audiobooks, so they're theirs. We are not the publishers on them, but we do help get them into library spaces, and these are really exciting titles, so I just wanted to put these in front of you all. Blessed Water by Margot Dewey, narrated by Mara Wilson. She's fantastic. This is book 2 in the Sister Holiday series. Scorched Grace was the first book in the series, and Mara did that one as well. So excited to have her back on this, narrating for the second book. Blessed Water follows Sister Holiday, who's our main character in the series. She's a tattooed, chain-smoking nun who's just trying to keep on the straight and narrow, but she also solves mysteries. So she is part of the Redemption Detective Agency. This takes place in New Orleans. The city floods, they find a drowned priest, and so they're trying to figure out if there was foul play. So definitely very fun, interesting concept, and tremendous narration from Mara Wilson. Brings so much life to the series. So excited to have this new one. It comes out March 12th, so very soon. Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. We still don't have the narration on this one, but we're really excited about it because it's book 2 in this viral TikTok Friends to Lover. It's a dark romantic comedy series. And it's been just doing really well in those spaces like BookTok and Bookstagram. The main characters are a contract killer and a musician. So a very interesting team up. And they have to navigate kind of this dangerous scenario, but they definitely may or may not end up falling in love. So very fun and from Zando as well. Be coming out June 4th. And again, these are just a small smattering of titles. I put some more on here. We have Kirsten Modulin. She's fantastic, twisty thriller writer. If you haven't checked out any of her stuff, she is very prolific. Great psychological thrillers, mysteries. We have the Next Botanist Guide book, which is a Saffron Everly series. So good. A botanist who solves mysteries by her knowledge of plants. So very unique kind of perspective there. Italia Hibbert, a great nonfiction title coming up. So I definitely would check out, if you go to the next slide. Scan the QR code or go to that link. There's excerpts up there. We also have the full NetGalley listen for the mystery writer. So I'd encourage you to just click on that link. If you have NetGalley, you can get instant access. If you don't have NetGalley, you can just sign up for it for free, and then you'll get instant access and be able to start listening to that because we're very excited about that audiobook. And then if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, my name is Jolene. I'd love to talk to you about audio. just send me a message whenever you want. My email's right there. And thank you for everything you do. We really appreciate all the work you do with your libraries.
Thank you so much, Jolene. Some great titles in that batch. Next, we get to hear from Abigail Miles. Abigail is the Sales and Marketing Associate at CamCat Books. She leads the promotion of CamCat's young adult titles and audiobooks through social media, newsletters, advertisement, and more. Abigail holds a BA in creative writing and a BA in mathematics from Appalachian State University. The floor is yours, Abigail.
Thank you so much. Hi, yeah, as I was just introduced, I'm Abigail Miles. I'm the Sales and Marketing Associate at CamCat, and I'm so excited to be sharing some of our newly released and upcoming audio titles with all of you. Quick note just about our books in general. All of our books have audiobook components to them, beyond just the ones in this webinar, and all of the books in this webinar, in addition to audio, are also available in hardcover, large print, paperback, and ebook formats. And all of our audio is available via digital download. Okay, next slide. So the first title I have to share with you is King Me by J.A. Crawford, narrated by Tim Campbell. This is the third book in the highly praised and critically acclaimed Ken Allen Super Sleuth series, where each book in the series is a standalone mystery following Ken Allen, who is a failed actor turned private detective. So each book in the series focuses on and lightly pokes fun at a different fandom, with King Me focusing on widely popular fantasy television series such as Game of Thrones that perhaps don't quite end the way fans would have chosen, which can even at times lead to certain murderous traits. So this one is a lot of fun. It features a lot of the same incredible action sequences as all of the other books in the series that the author choreographs himself, as well as hilarious tongue-in-cheek banter and a fast-paced murder mystery that will have readers on the edge of their seats. The audio for this one in particular has been getting a lot of good attention. You can see up there on the screen, it got a starred audio review from Library Journal. So it's definitely a good mystery to listen to. We think Tim Campbell just does a phenomenal job bringing the character of Ken Allen to life. And this one came out back in November, so it's available now. Next slide. Next up, we have The Oxygen Farmer by Colin Holmes, narrated by Keith Sarabika. This is a very classic feeling sci-fi book that has also been getting a lot of rave trade reviews. You can see a couple from Kirkus and Library Journal up there. It also got a really great shelf awareness one and a great Booklist one, all of which are likening this book to those by Andy Weir or Jack McDevitt or 2001: A Space Odyssey. So like I said, just very much one for fans of the classics, but also a really easy sci-fi read for new readers to the genre to get into as well. The author of this book, Colin Holmes, is returning here to another genre-bending story in which a cranky old oxygen farmer living on the moon stumbles onto a century-old secret that threatens to derail the first mission to Mars, possibly destroy the Luna colony on Mars or on the moon, and maybe even all life on Earth. So readers who enjoy thrilling sci-fi adventures full of conspiracies to untangle and lots of heart will enjoy The Oxygen Farmer and its old man, cranky main character. And this one came out in December, so it's also now available. Next. Next up, we have Lest She Forget by Lisa Malice, narrated by Kimberly M. Weatherall and Nelson Hobbs. This is a twisty psych thriller with a heart-pounding hide-and-seek plot that follows a young woman named Kay who wakes up from a car crash with no memory at all as to who she is. She just knows that somebody is after her, and she has to figure out both who is after her and who she is, so why she is being hunted. This book is perfect for anybody who really loves memory thrillers with Kay's amnesia coming really into play, people who like unreliable narrators, as we are learning more and more about this character right along with her as she's trying to piece together her past and grasp at any memory that could point to who she was and what she might have done in her past to bring her to this point where she currently is on the run. It's very fast-paced on page one, chock full of twists almost on every page. And this is another one where the audiobook in particular has been getting a lot of really good attention. It also got a Library Journal audio starred review, as well as a really great audiophile review, and it was their Earphones Award recipient back in the fall. This one came out in December as well, so it's also now available. Next slide. Next one is Bone Pendant Girls by Terry S. Freeman, narrated by Rachel Fulgenetti, Danny Campbell, and Jesse Valinsky. This is another thriller, but this one is a bit of a genre bender as well, with a supernatural edge to it. So in this book, our main character, Andy, is a reluctant clairvoyant who stumbles upon two bone pendants that are carved into the likeness of the faces of two missing girls. And Andy realizes that the girls' spirits are trapped inside the pendants where they wound up after being murdered, which is just very creepy by itself. Andy then winds up hunting or needing to hunt down this serial killer that the girls refer to only as the Fisherman, in order to put a stop to him and bring justice to these two girls. So like I said, just a heart-pounding thriller read, perfect for fans of murder mysteries and thrillers, and also those who like spooky reads, paranormal reads. So that genre bender element's really great. Another one where the audiobook has been getting a lot of really good attention. It didn't come in time to make it on the screen, but this one also has recently gotten a starred audio review from Library Journal. And this one came out in January, so it's also available now. Next one. Next up, we have Angolan by C.E. Taylor, narrated by Kara Lordigan. This one is a classic military sci-fi space opera tale that tells the story of a society in flux, facing change whether it wants to or not. So in the future, in a far-off planet, the society of Angolan is discovered by a dangerous enemy that is bent on conquest. And it's up to its people to stop the threat from without and also the threat from within. This is a book that features a lot of themes of the hidden and fate, as well as really incredible immersive world building that just sucks you right in, making it a great escapist read. It also features a great LGBTQ+ relationship between the main character, Tate, and his partner, Willem, which is a really sweet subplot to the rest of the intensity of the story. So like I said, a perfect escapist sci-fi with a lot of heart that is built up most strongly around its just amazing cast of characters. And this one came out in February, earlier this month, so it's also available now. Next slide. Next up, we have Calypso Down by James Lindholm, narrated by Tom Taylorson. This is the fourth standalone book in the Chris Black Adventures series, which is an action-adventure series that follows Chris Black, a marine biologist who fights crime on the open sea and under the ocean's surface. So this series is informed by the author, Dr. James Lindholm, who is a marine biologist in his day job, lending that expertise to the fictional adventures of his characters as he creates underwater stories that just brim with authenticity. Like all of James Lindholm's books, this is a heart-pounding read that's infused with loads of real science every step along the way. Great for fans of Clive Cussler and other science-based action books. And this one comes out in March, so just a few weeks from now. Next slide. Mission by B.R. Lewis, narrated by Scott Brick. This one is a very unique book. We like to say is kind of The Office set in deep space, as it's just a hilarious and satiric sci-fi space adventure that commentates on bureaucracy and capitalism and lots of other things in an extreme and really humorous way. This one has also been receiving a lot of good audio attention. You can see the audiophile review up there. It also got a really nice Library Journal audio review. And going along with all of that is just the phenomenal narration that's done by Scott Brick, who you may have heard of, as he is a legend in the audio world, known for narrating the Dune series and Jurassic Park and Blade Runner, among numerous others. And he really lends his voice quite well to this humorous sci-fi journey that just immerses you so well into the comedic adventure of these characters. So in Spacehold, a team is sent across the galaxy to try and sell off-brand misprinted merchandise, but finds themselves caught up in a dispute between warring alien factions. So this one is perfect for fans of Douglas Adams or the Murderbot books or any other humor sci-fi books. And this one also comes out in March, so pretty soon. Next title. Next up, we have Sanctuary by Valentina Cano Repetto, narrated by Rachel F. Hirsch and Eve Passeltiner. This is a historical horror that oscillates between the 1930s and the Renaissance period and takes place in a watermill in Italy, a setting that was inspired by the author's own home in real life, and just casts a very perfectly eerie setting to this haunting story. So in Sanctuary, a 1930s Italian woman must battle the sinister forces that are threatening her life and sanity in the rundown, isolated watermill she calls home, a place that was last inhabited centuries ago. This is a book that is equal parts terrifying, but also so beautiful, as the author's lyrical literary voice weaves this tale of evil forces through the ages, crafting a truly unputdownable horror audio read. And this one comes out in April. Next title. Next up, we have Grand Tour, The Brass Queen 2 by Elizabeth Chatsworth, narrated by Erin Bennett, which is the sequel to The Brass Queen, which came out a few years ago, and which both critics and readers and other authors, just everybody who read it, absolutely raved about. It won numerous awards and was just highly acclaimed across the board. And we think that Grand Tour is a truly phenomenal and worthy follow-up to its first book in the series. This is a Gaslamp fantasy series that is set in an alternate Victorian England, and the second installment, Grand Tour, is loosely inspired by H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. It is full of Elizabeth Chatsworth's signature wit and charm, as our main characters in this one are blackmailed into stealing artifacts from the crown heads of Europe while keeping interdimensional monsters from destroying the world. It also features a romance that was first started in the first book and just continues to grow between the two main characters in this one that is full of banter and will they, won't they, swoon-worthy moments. It's a fun-filled book that is hilarious and quirky in all the best ways. And this one also comes out in April. Next slide. Next up, we have Hidden Rooms by Kate Michelson, narrated by Lisa Larson, which is a twisty murder mystery that really highlights and features disability inclusivity at its core. So in this one, our main character, Riley Svensson, has reluctantly returned to her rural hometown in Ohio when her brother's fiance is mysteriously murdered. As her brother becomes the prime suspect, Riley must push aside all of her looming medical symptoms to hunt down the real killer. So the author of this one, Kate Michelson, was inspired to write Hidden Rooms while she was dealing with her own mystery illness some years back. She wanted to portray the challenging reality of living with an invisible disability while also demonstrating that illness does not define a person's worth or agency. So Hidden Rooms is a suspense-driven murder mystery that's full of interesting family dynamics and small-town intrigue where anyone could be the killer. And it also comes out in April. Next slide. Next up, we have The Shabti by Megara C. Lawrence, narrated by Matt Haynes. This is a historical fantasy that mixes romance, paranormal, horror, suspense, and humor. So really, it has a little bit of everything in it. In The Shabti, when confronted with an otherworldly spirit while trying to escape the ghosts of his very own real past, a fake medium must use the tools of his shady trade to trick his former partner and Spectre. This one is really interesting because the author has a PhD in Egyptology, which really lends itself well to the authenticity of those aspects of the story. And readers will not only love the Egyptology angles and the spooky premise, but also the adorable, grumpy, sunshine LGBTQ+ romance between the two main characters. So this one is perfect for fans of A Marvelous Light or anything by TJ Klune, and it comes out in May. Next slide. And our last title today is When I Was Alice by Jennifer Murgia, narrated by Lisa Larson, which we're calling sort of Last Night in Soho meets the Hollywood Golden Age in a historical mystery with a time travel twist. So in When I Was Alice, a present-day librarian falls from the Hollywood sign and awakens in 1953, where she is mistaken for a rising star, Alice Montgomery, who has disappeared under mysterious circumstances. She must find out what happened to Alice, both to save herself from suffering the same fate and to find a way back home. So this is perfect for fans of both mystery and sci-fi, making it a great genre bender that takes a look at the darker side of Hollywood and what lurks in those shadows behind all the spotlights. And this one comes out in June. Next slide. That's all of our titles we have for you today. But like I said, all of our books have audio formats, so we have plenty more amazing audio titles as well. You can feel free to email me. My email's on the screen, Abigail@CamCatPublishing.com, with any questions about these audiobooks or anything else with our titles. And you can sign up for our monthly newsletter to get even more info about our books or find any of our books on Edelweiss. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Abigail. So many great things coming from CamCat lately. Next, we'll hear from Elham Ali and Cassie Smythe. Elham graduated from the University of Toronto in 2014, and since completing the Humber College Publishing Program, she has worked in marketing and publicity roles in Canada's Ballet Yorgan, Penguin Random House Canada, and Dundurn Press. She joined ECW Press as a senior publicist in 2020 and has been serving as the trade marketing lead since 2021. Cassie is the audiobooks manager at ECW Press. In her role, she has managed the production of more than 275 audiobooks, all by Canadian publishers and authors, and has narrated by Canadian voice talent. She holds a BA in English, minor in business from Carleton University, and a certificate in creative book publishing from Humber College. Take it away, ECW.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be back with Booklist for their webinars. If you don't know us, ECW Press, we're one of Canada's largest indie publishers. We're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And over that time, we've published over 1,000 books and produced hundreds of audiobooks. Are things that we have something for absolutely every reader. And we're really excited to be telling you about just a few of those titles today. And so Cassie is just going to kick us off to tell you a little bit about our audiobook imprint.
Thanks, Elham. Could we go to the next slide, please? Great. So as Elham mentioned, we have been doing audiobooks for quite some time now. We are coming up on close to 10 years, and during those 10 years, we have produced over 600 audiobooks. Now, these are not just our in-house frontlist titles. We also produce for hire for other independent Canadian publishers. And as part of that, we found that we were creating these great relationships with them. And we noticed that they were not producing all of their titles in audiobook, and that there was this kind of gap in the market of these titles that were not being made. And so we've started working with them, and we've been working with them since 2018 to acquire their audiobook rights so that we produce these audiobooks. And in doing so, we've created such fantastic work. We've worked with author Casey Plett on A Dream of a Woman and Little Fish. We've worked with Arsenal Pulp Press on books like Dandelion and Butter Honey Pig Bread. It's really fantastic work. These are all Canadian authors, Canadian books, Canadian directors, narrators, etc. There's such a wonderful wealth of talent in Canada, and we really like to see it flourish in this bespoke audiobook imprint. We've created close to 80 titles at this point, so it's really almost a sixth of our audiobook work that we've done since starting up in 2016. So it's quite a breadth of work, and it's really exciting to see all these books be made accessible in audio for people to enjoy. Can we go to the next slide, please? So I just wanted to touch on a couple titles that we've created under this bespoke imprint today. The first is The Clarion, which was originally published by Invisible Publishing in print and ebook. We acquired the rights to this one shortly after it was longlisted for the 2023 Scotiabank Giller Prize. With the input from the author, because we love to involve the author and the original publishing house when we create these bespoke books, we determined that we needed to hire 2 narrators for this one. And it just so happened that Nina, the author, had contacted David and Kate to do the reading at her book launch. And so we auditioned them for the audiobook, we brought them in, and they were fantastic. They just perfectly fit the bill of the 2 main characters. It's a dual perspective in this book. There's the younger brother, Peter, who he plays the trumpet and works in a kitchen, and then Stassi's trying to climb the corporate ladder. And they're both at these really different parts in their lives, but they're both equally struggling to come to terms of what they want their life to be and how they want to get there, and just really reckoning with what it is to be a human in these times. Can we go to the next slide, please? Great. And then we have Abolitionist Intimacies, which was originally acquired from Fernwood Publishing. It's written by Elle Jones, who's a professor. So this is nonfiction. The previous was a fiction title, more literary fiction. And it does cover some heavy subject matter. It examines the movement to abolish prisons through the Black feminist principles of care and collectivity. But it's not academic writing. It's very accessible writing. It's very moving. It's a collection of poems and personal accounts from Elle actually like speaking with prisoners and collecting their thoughts and feelings and experiences. It's her own personal essays, like examining what she knows and what she's seen through her experiences and academic lens. This was narrated by Asa Nibarikaru, and it was directed by Diane Roberts. And Diane is just a powerhouse. This was actually Asa's first audiobook that she's narrated, but as soon as we heard her audition, we knew she was perfectly suited to continue in this line of work. And we're really excited about this one. It's coming out in mid-April. Can we go to the next slide, please? And this is just a sample of our bespeak books. We have lots of winners in here of earphone awards. Rebound Center actually was nominated for an Audie last year. And we just really love working with this and supporting Canadian publishers and Canadian writers. And we love that we're able to shine a light on this talent in this way. I'll pass it over to Elham now.
Thanks so much, Cassie. So now I will be talking more about the audiobooks that ECW is producing from our own titles this spring. So like I'd mentioned before, at ECW, we've been around for 50 years and for almost 10 years have been producing our own titles in audio as well as for other publishers. But we actually kind of take a three-pronged approach to audiobook production. So we do our own titles, we do for other publishers, and we also sell audiobook rights for our own titles. So like Dreamscape, for example, who's here today, is producing recently acquired Grey Dog, one of our spring front list fiction, and they'll be doing the audiobook for that. We have an absolutely incredible and unique catalog. We do everything from literary fiction to genre fiction, pop culture analysis, a lot of sports books. Our special niche is professional wrestling books. And so what we're really passionate about is connecting the right book to the right reader. And so I hope that we'll be able to show you some of that breadth today. Next slide, please. So the first book I wanted to talk about is one that I am incredibly excited for. Denison Avenue by Christina Wong and Daniel Innes is an incredibly unique book, unlike anything that we've ever done at ECW. It is a dual novella and graphic novel that tells the story of an elderly Chinese-Canadian woman named Wong Cho-sum, who lives in Toronto's Kensington Market, Chinatown, which is also where both the author and illustrator live. And they really created this book as a love letter to this neighborhood that is changing and kind of disappearing. At the beginning of the book, Wong Cho-sum's husband passes away. And so as a way to kind of deal with her grief, she decides to walk around her neighborhood collecting cans and bottles. But what she finds is that her neighborhood is completely different from what she remembers. And so she's kind of dealing with two losses, the loss of her husband and the loss of her home. So in print, the book is kind of experimental on one side. I don't know if you can see this. You have the text, and then as soon as you flip it over, it is a textless graphic novel with these incredibly beautiful, detailed illustrations that let you walk through the neighborhood with Wong Cho-sum. And it actually wasn't intended to be produced in audio because it is so graphic. But Cassie will tell you a little bit more about why we decided to make that change.
Yeah, so we actually partnered with an organization called CNIB on this audiobook. And with CNIB, we worked with the author and the illustrator, Christina and Daniel, and they wrote all of the alt text for the illustrations. And when I say alt text, I'm sure that you think like, oh, it's just going to be like, there's a green tree in the background and there's a bench on the side of the street. But no, there's such heartfelt, full descriptions of what's going on in the scenes. And even more so than that, Christina and Daniel put these really intricate descriptions of what the scenes mean to them personally and why they made the creative choice to include these. And this is all detail that's different than reading the print book, because you don't get these behind the scenes in like scenes of information and little nuggets from the author and the illustrator themselves. It's also narrated by Christina, and she just does such an incredible job of conveying the emotion of this book. Fun tidbit, I played a little bit of this at our staff meeting a little while ago at ECW, and the editor of the book was actually brought to tears a little bit by hearing Christina's narration. So, it hits home a lot. It's a really, really wonderful read.
Yeah, we absolutely love this book. It's so special to us, and I really hope that you will check it out both in print and audio, because like Cassie said, they're very different, but also equally beautiful experiences. Next slide, please. So now we're moving into frontlist fiction. This is What's Not Mine by Nora Dector, narrated by Billy Baird. This is contemporary literary fiction, a kind of tragicomedy by an award-winning Canadian author. This is her adult debut, actually. Her previous novel, YA novel, How Far We Go and How Fast, was a winner of the Kobo Emerging Writers Prize. This also deals with a teenage protagonist, though. 16-year-old Bria is experiencing the toughest year of her life. Her small town home, Beauchamp, is plagued by forest fires, swarms of insects, bears keep wandering into town, and fentanyl has actually infiltrated the drug stream, and it's absolutely torn her family apart. Bria's life really feels out of control, and as the summer progresses and you get more and more into her narration, you start to realize that the thing that she should hate the most, the thing that has really ruined her life, is something that she's starting to turn to more and more for relief and for some sense of control. What's Not Mine does look at some really serious, dark topics like family, addiction, intergenerational trauma. But despite this, it's actually really funny. It's a very poignant, uplifting coming-of-age story that's perfect for readers who love Miriam Taves and Heather O'Neill. Nora is an absolutely beautiful, exceptional writer, and her atmospheric writing just comes through even more in the audiobook. Next slide, please. Next, we're moving into nonfiction. We don't have the audiobook covers for the next few titles, so you'll just have to make do with these really beautiful images from the covers that kind of like hint at what you'll get. Off the Tracks, a meditation on train journeys in a time of no travel by Pamela Malloy, and narrated by Jennifer Wigmore, is really creative nonfiction at its finest. Pamela combines a social history of trains as well as personal travel memoirs with a broader meditation about the meaning, importance, and symbolism of traveling that was actually written during lockdown. This was a time when we were all confined to our homes, and so Pamela could only kind of dream of train travel, which is actually seeing something of a renaissance now. A lot of neglected sort of lines are being reinvigorated. So like the Rocky Mountaineer, the Orient Express, people are craving this kind of slow, more thoughtful form of travel. And so Pamela's re-examining her lifelong love of trains and the impact that they've had, not just on individuals, but also cultures and societies. This is one of our leading nonfiction titles of the season. It's a really fun and thoughtful work of nonfiction, which is something that we've done well with. You might know previous books that we've done, like Moments of Glad Grace by Alison Waring and In Praise of Retreat. If you like those thoughtful meditations, you'll really like this as well. Next slide, please. So now we're moving into genre fiction, and I love that all of us have kind of brought in these quirky sleuth books. Ours is the Dr. Bannerman Vet Mysteries by Philip Schott and narrated by Miles Miele, who's doing all 3 books in the series. If you love cozy mysteries, then you'll absolutely love this. The series follows a quiet and contemplative vet and his trusty sniffer dog Pippin, who solve mysteries in their small town of New Selphos. This time, though, Pippin and Peter are going on vacation. They head to a fishing lodge for some well-deserved rest, but of course it's not long before trouble starts brewing. The lodge's team of huskies is poisoned at the same time that a plane crash leaves 3 people dead. And so when a forest fire cuts the lodge off from the world, Peter realizes that whoever has committed these crimes, which are connected, must be one of the guests or employees who are trapped inside. And so it's up to him and Pippin to figure out who it is before they strike again. These are a wonderful series. You can see some of the praise that previous books have received, and the first book, 54 Pigs, was actually a gold winner of the Forward Indies Book of the Year Award. They can also be read as standalones, much like a lot of the other series that have been presented today. So be sure to grab all 3 and read them in any order you like. Next slide. Finally, one of my favorite books that ECW has ever done, The Annual Migration of Clouds, is receiving a sequel, We Speak Through the Mountain. These are both written by Primi Mohammed. The Annual Migration of Clouds came out in 2021 and was actually meant to be a standalone, but fans demanded a sequel. And so we're really excited to be bringing that. These are kind of thoughtful social commentary wrapped in this incredible sci-fi dystopian box. Primi is an incredible writer. I don't want to give away too much of the plot, just because the second book does give away the end of the first. Suffice to say that they follow a young woman named Reed who is infected with a parasite and is forced to decide if she wants to leave her home or go away and kind of save the world. Sorry, I'm out of time, but I love these books. Primi is an incredible sci-fi writer. Definitely read all of her books. She comes out with like 7 a year. She's got a full-time day job and she's writing award-winning books left, right, and center. But if you go to the next slide, you'll just find some contact information. You can follow ECW on NetGalley, and ECW Audio is also on NetGalley. So if you'd like more information on these or anything else, please do reach out.
Thank you so much, ECW. What a wide-ranging and interesting collection you guys have. And thank you to all of today's presenters. We really appreciate you all being here. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, the title list, a certificate of completion, and the video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those that you see here. Staff training, in-services, local conferences, Booklist can help. You can now request free copies of Booklist and Booklist Reader for upcoming staff training programs so that you can help the next generation of library workers become readers advisory and collection development superstars. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit our website or email info@booklistonline.com for more details. Mastering the art of reader's advisory involves ongoing study, both of major concepts that form the backbone of good RA practice and the skills that make your RA practice effective on a day-to-day. Join Booklist on Thursday, March 14th for an extended free workshop designed to keep you up to speed on both the ideas and practice that will enhance your RA game. I will be one of the presenters, and I would love to see you there. Register now to learn from experts in the field about how genres relate to each other, how to talk to patrons about their leisure reading, and how to write an effective book annotation. Visit our website for more details. Thank you once again for joining today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, LA Theater Works, Dreamscape Audio, CamCat Books, and ECW Press. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.